using OnShape, let's just run through a few of the basics that you need. The first thing is that all accounts are created in spf.onshape.com. That's the website that you need to go to. Once you've actually opened up the email that you've received from OnShape and signed up your account, the next time you log in, you need to use your email address and your password that you set up. I'm now going to sign in to OnShape. Okay. It comes up. So the first thing that you see is you will see the activity that you've been involved with, and then documents that you've been working on, or other people have been working on that are in your team. And then you have some analytics and some action items. We're going to have a look at documents to start off with. If we have a look at the tree here, we've got your OnShape, recently opened, created, the teams that you're part of, and the public documents that are shared. And these are the ones that are done through all the users of OnShape around the world that may share documents that come into the public domain here. Okay. If I was to create something, I go to the Create button up here, yeah, and I look at actually creating a document. You can create folders that you put stuff into, but most of the time you're just creating a document. Okay. Projects we come to later on. That's for when you have several people that are combining their files together. But for most of you, a document is what you need to start with. Just click on that to start it. Give it a name you're going to recognize. I'm going to call this one Test 5 because I've already got some other documents there. Click on OK. And that will then start up and load up the first document for you. Okay. A bit of housekeeping that needs to be done first. You need to make sure that you are operating in millimeters. So what we do, we go up to these 3 lines here, click on that, and make sure under workspace units that you're on millimeters. By default, OnShape will probably start off in inches because it's an American program. You need to make sure that you're in millimeters. Okay, and then green tick to save that. Now, the way that OnShape works, it works with 3 panes, and each pane or workspace or work plane is like a sheet of paper, and they're arranged to scroll around so they intersect across each other. This little bit in the middle here is called the origin. Okay, so we can choose which plane we want to draw on first. I like to draw on the top plane first most of the time. So we need to put up a sketch on that plane before we can start. So what we do is we can either right click on that area and go to New Sketch, yeah, to place it there, or we can go to the actual plane in the menu here, right click and go to New Sketch there. Either way will work the same. Okay, so I'm going to go to a New Sketch, and that will open up the New Sketch box here, and that tells you that you're going to be drawing on that plane. Okay, we also have a scroll cube here that we can scroll around so we can look directly at the surface that we want to draw on. So I want to look straight at the top view, so I'm going to click on that, and that will rotate the planes around so I'm looking straight at that one sheet of paper to work on. Okay, remember this is our origin where all the 3 planes intersect. Okay, so I'm going to just start by taking a rectangular shape, and I tend to always start from the origin in the corner here when I draw something. It just feels right that that should be the starting point, so I'm just going to drag out a shape. Now, the measurements are quite accurate, so we've got 30 point something, 45 point something. You know, it's very, very accurate. It's going to thousandth of a millimeter. Yeah, I'm going to let go there. Now, as soon as I let go, I'm getting a dialog box to change the amount. So I'm going to change that to, say, 35, and automatically that fills in that space. Click Return or Enter, and it moves to the other dimension, and I can go back into that one and say, well, I want that to be 50. Okay, I've now got that dimensioned. So these lines here are called my dimension lines. Okay, now the problem that a lot of people get is that they start to draw something, they get to a point, and then they think, oh, I want to change this measurement here. So they click on that to try and change it. And what they do is initiate another rectangle. And they think, oh, heck, right click. All right, what do I do now? I'll click on this measurement and change that. And then they end up drawing another rectangle, and it becomes a bit of a mess. The trick is that as soon as you finish drawing a rectangle, the dialog box comes up for you to change the measurement, and so you don't need to keep drawing. So I'm just going to undo those boxes there. Okay, so we've got our undo and redo buttons there. If you find you have drawn something and you decide that you want to change the measurement, yeah, at any time you can go to this dimension tool here, yeah, click back onto the dimension, double click, and that opens up a dialog box, and then we can edit what you actually changed there. It takes a bit of time to redraw, but it does allow you to edit it. So I can go back to this one, double click, and that one wants to say V60, and I can edit it back again. Okay, really simple. At the end of my session, I can green tick to finish this sketch off, or I might want to go back and actually, so I'm going to finish that off. So I want to go back into this one to make some more changes. I can go back to this tree here. That's the sketch that I was working on. As I highlight over it, my sketch becomes live, so I know that that's the one that I've worked on. But I can't make any changes yet until I make this bold. To make it bold, you double click on it. That makes it bold, and I've returned back to that sketch for me to work with. Okay, and again, I could go back to any of the measurements. I could move that dimension if I wanted to, and if I find it's in the way of the drawing, I can drag it out of the way, yeah, or I can go into it, double click, and I can then change the dimension that I'm working on there, yeah, quite easily with that. Okay, let's edit this drawing a little bit. Let's put a circle onto this. So I'm going to draw a circle that overlaps this a little bit. Let's put it there. Okay, so I've made a new shape there. I quite like this curve that's going around the outside, but I don't need the curve on the inside of this line here. So I'm going to trim those out of the way. So on my toolbar, I've got a pair of scissors here. I can click on that, I can go into it, and I can say, okay, well, this arc, now because it's overlapped that, it now becomes part of a new drawing here. I can take that part out, and I can say I don't need that. I can take that part out, I can take that part out, and I now have a new sketch that I've drawn there. Okay. Similarly, I could take another shape, maybe this one down here. So when I'm actually hovering over the line, I'm actually on that line for the center of my circle. I can drag out like so, yeah. And again, I've got my dialog box for changing the dimensions. So I could say that one wants to be 18 millimeters, yeah. And that will expand up for me. I'm now going to go with my scissors, and I'm going to perhaps change it so there's an indent into it. So that line there can come out, that line there can come out, and that line there can come out. And I've now got an indent in my shape. Okay, so I'm now going to green tick this one to finish it off, and I could use my right hand mouse button to pan around to see what the effect will be of that. Okay, and again, if I want to go back into it, I can go to the top. So I'm just looking directly at it. I can go back to the sketch, double click, and I can go back into my drawing, and I can change elements to it. So I might say, well, the distance that I've got between here and here, okay, that's the radius of that circle. Yeah, sorry, the diameter. What about the distance between here and here? Maybe the positioning isn't quite right. So I'll go to my dimension tool. I can click on that. I can drag away. Look at the dimension. So that's 90. Maybe I want it to be 20. Okay, and everything moves accordingly. Maybe this line here, take that, dimension that, 21. Yeah, so I'm fully editable. What about the arc on this? So I can pick that, drag that out. Now, because it's not a complete circle, it's now an arc. So it has a radius value, so that's the measurement from the center to the edge rather than from across the center. So radius, and I'll make that one 17. That work? Yes. Okay, so I can edit that. So at any time you can go back into the drawing and edit what you've actually created. Okay. I'm going to green tick that. I've got my drawing set up there. Now, what about extruding it? Let's go to the extrusion tool, click on the shape. But automatically, what this does, it stretches the shape up. Yeah. So it's made it into a thicker shape of 25 millimeters. Let's make this a 15 millimeters. Yeah. So it's fully adjustable, or I can take the arrow and physically drag it to make it into a taller or a shorter shape there. Okay. So I quite like that being 15, so 15 it is there. Yeah. When I'm happy, I can green tick, and away I've got my shape there now. Okay. And if I want to tidy it up, I can use my fillet tool. I can go around, pick up various lines here, and maybe just edit those lines to give it a bit more of a shape. 5mm is the default one. It's a little bit too much for me. I'm going to take that down to 3mm. There you go, that's a little bit neater for it. Okay? Okay, see how you get on with that. Where is the stop button?